On the morning of December 6, 1952, a London bus driver woke up before dawn. The cold had already entered his bones, the kind of cold that never really leaves. He dressed slowly, pulled on his coat, wrapped a scarf around his neck. He had lived in London his entire life. Fog did not frighten him. Fog was normal. When he unlocked the front door and stepped outside, he expected grey, he expected damp. What he did not expect was absence. The street was gone, not hidden, not blurred, gone. The pavement beneath his feet vanished into nothing. The houses across the road no longer existed. The world ended inches from his face. He raised his hand carefully, slowly, as if afraid the air itself might resist him. He could not see his fingers. The air felt thick, not heavy, thick, as if it had weight. It clung to his skin, pressed against his eyes, filled his mouth. It smelled wrong, bitter, sharp, metallic. Every breath scratched his throat like it wasn't meant to be inside a human body. He coughed once, then again, and then he did something millions of Londoners would do that week. He kept breathing. By the end of that week, this man, like thousands of others, would be dead. Not from war, not from violence, not from disease. He would die from breathing. London in the early 1950s was not strong. It looked alive, but it was fragile. The Second World War had ended 7 years earlier, but the city still carried its wounds openly. Bombed buildings stood half-repaired. Entire streets were scarred with blackened brick. Some ruins were simply left standing, too expensive to fix, too familiar to remove. Food was rationed, meat was limited, sugar was precious. Winters were long. Cold crept through walls and into lungs. Coal was not optional. Coal was survival. Every home burned it to stay warm. Factories burned it to keep workers employed. Power stations burned it to keep the city alive. Every single morning, millions of chimneys released black smoke into the sky. It stained curtains. It coated windows. It settled into lungs. But no one complained, because this was London, because it had always been this way. Londoners even had a name for it. They called it fog. Sometimes they laughed about it. Sometimes they complained about dirty clothes, but they never feared it. Smoke meant warmth. Smoke meant work. Smoke meant life. What no one wanted to admit was that the city was slowly killing itself, breath by breath, day by day. On December 5th, 1952, the city did not wake up to disaster. It woke up to silence. A high-pressure weather system settled over London like a giant invisible lid. The wind slowed, then stopped. Smoke rose from chimneys and stayed there. It didn't drift away. It didn't dissolve. It hung, and then it fell. Hour by hour, the smoke sank back down into the streets. At first, people barely noticed. Then visibility dropped, from streets to doorways to inches. A yellow-brown cloud spilled through roads, alleys, parks and homes. The city disappeared slowly, not dramatically, not suddenly. It dissolved. People could no longer see across the road. Then they couldn't see the pavement. Then they couldn't see their own feet. Cars crashed gently, quietly, then stopped forever where they stood. Drivers stepped out and vanished into the smog. Buses froze mid-route. Passengers stepped off and became silhouettes. London did not panic. It choked. At first, people tried to live normally. They went to work. They went shopping. They walked carefully. The smog followed them. It slipped through cracks, crawled under doors, filled stairwells and hallways. Cinemas closed because the fog rolled down aisles and swallowed the screen. Schools sent children home early. Factories slowed, then stopped. Hospitals filled, and then breathing stopped being automatic. This was not fog. This was poison. A lethal mixture of coal smoke, sulfur dioxide, soot, and acidic particles entered human lungs and refused to leave. Breathing burned. Inhaling felt sharp, as if the air itself had edges. Coughing became violent. Asthma attacks exploded across the city. Chest pains spread from house to house. People described the sensation as drowning without water. Children cried as they struggled for air. Parents held them helpless. The elderly collapsed quietly in chairs and beds, their breathing slowing until it stopped. People did not die suddenly. They faded, minute by minute, breath by breath. Hospitals were overwhelmed. Patients filled corridors, stairwells, waiting rooms. Doctors watched faces turn blue, lips darkened. Breathing became shallow, lungs filled with invisible damage. There was no antidote, no emergency treatment, no machine that could clean poisoned air from inside a human chest. Doctors could only watch. For the first time, medicine was powerless against the environment itself. Death became routine. By the third day, London felt dead. Sound did not travel through the smog. Footsteps vanished after a few steps. Voices were swallowed. The city felt buried alive. Ambulances could not reach the dying. Drivers could not see. Many simply stopped trying. Hearses lined the streets. Gravediggers ran out of coffins. Funerals became mechanical. Death became administrative. Animals died faster. Cattle collapsed at Smithfield Market. Birds fell from the sky mid-flight. Pets suffocated in locked homes. The smog did not discriminate. Anything that breathed was vulnerable. On December 9th, the wind returned. The smog lifted quietly. London reappeared. But the damage continued. Deaths followed for weeks. Breathing had already done its work. Officials announced 4,000 deaths. The truth was darker. Medical records revealed delayed lung failure. The real number, up to 12,000 dead and over 100,000 injured. Breathing killed them. It just took time. Coal meant money. Factories meant jobs. Smoke meant survival. Pollution was progress. Stopping it was inconvenient. So officials waited, and people died. Public outrage followed funerals. In 1956, the Clean Air Act was passed. These laws were not written in ink. They were written in lungs. Today, London feels clean, but invisible threats remain invisible. They don't announce themselves. They wait. And when they arrive, you won't see them. You will breathe them.